The biggest difference between Britain and America is that Americans think 100 years is a long time and the British think 100 miles is a long way. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to total land area. Let me tell you a story. 15 years ago, I routinely had to travel from the west coast to the east coast by car. For about 3 years, this was just my reality, but here's the twist. That commute was only about 3 hours long. And I know what you're thinking, oh Lawrence, were you living in some sort of alternate universe? Close, I was living in Britain. In between university semesters, or as we Brits would say, terms, I often made the journey from Lancaster, where I was studying at university, to my hometown of Grimsby. And to me, this just seemed inconveniently long. Like, couldn't I just stay in Lancaster and hope that Skype gets invented far sooner than it actually did? I was a visionary, I saw things before they happened. But I hadn't really considered this until I got out of Britain, until I could look back on it with sort of fresh eyes, that 160 miles isn't that far. For context, if you cover the same distance west to east from San Francisco, you wouldn't even leave California. Now, of course, many will rightly point out that Britain is taller than it is wide, so this is an unfair comparison. Fair enough, then I'll raise you the Mississippi River. Not literally, that would precipitate the worst flood in American history. If you could stretch out the Mississippi River with one end of it starting at the most northern tip of Scotland, it would reach all the way down to southern Algeria. And here's the second twist of the video. The Mississippi River isn't even the longest river in the United States. If you added the Missouri River, which is a tributary of the Mississippi River and is longer, your endpoint would be South Africa. Now, it's no coincidence that I brought up waterways, because if you include all relevant water territories, the following states are all larger than the entire United Kingdom: Michigan, Wyoming, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, California, Texas, Alaska. And that last one, of course, is famously big. How big? Well, it's roughly 7 times the size of the UK. It's like I used to tell my cats, if you want me to put this in a context that you understand, you're the United Kingdom and I'm Alaska. Right? They didn't really do much with that information except walk off and scratch a carpet. But it did help me assert dominance over them.
It's just the best feeling, isn't it? It's just the best feeling.
Basically, Alaska is so massive that one of its national parks, Wrangell St. Elias, is marginally bigger than Scotland. Now, I could go on forever about mind-blowing trivia regarding the other 10 states that are larger than the UK. Just ask my wife, my long-suffering wife. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to leave it with this one. The state of California is about 1.75 times the size of the UK. But perhaps one of the more interesting stories is that one of its counties, San Bernardino, is about a quarter of the size of Britain and twice the size of Wales. In total, the United States is 40 times the size of the UK, which is enough to declare the US a super country and for me to go high-pitched. But perhaps another way to judge this is by time. All those years ago when I lived in Lancaster, I didn't have to do any kind of mental math to work out what time it was in Grimsby. I didn't have to go on Google and ask, ooh, are my parents 1 or 2 or 3 hours ahead? I just looked at the time where I was, because we have the same standard time throughout Britain. Whereas in my previous American job, I literally sat on a phone call once with people from 6 different time zones. Plot twist number 3, they were all in the United States. Now, I'm biased. I'm British. I don't want America to get all of the glory in this video. Sure, America might have more land. The 13 colonies might have been bigger just by themselves. But we definitely squeeze in more people per square mile. Because while there are nearly as many people in Texas and California combined as there are in the United Kingdom, staggeringly, the UK's population comes out on top, even if you combine the population data of the following states: Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, Nevada, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So what does all of this mean? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I am reminded of a phrase. The biggest difference between Britain and America is that Americans think 100 years is a long time and the British think 100 miles is a long way. If I ever return to British life, I'm almost certain that I'll take the American perspective on distance with me. After all, Lancaster to Grimsby doesn't even get me out of California. Bye.